Hey friends, welcome back to another video. My name is Emma LaFave, and today we're going to be painting some fun Halloween illustrations with watercolor. So let's jump right in and get started. Okay, so today we are going to be painting some fun Halloween illustrations. I am painting in my Etcher Lab cold press watercolor sketchbook. I have my Winsor Newton professional watercolors and my Emma LaFave Craftimo brushes, and we're going to jump in and get started. So the first illustration we're going to do is this witch's hat. So I want you to think of painting a triangle and then this floppy kind of brim around it, make it a lot bigger. And then I have this little kind of curved point at the edge. Now, it doesn't have to be like a perfect triangle. You kind of want it a little, imperfect and bendy, and just kind of go with it. So I'm just filling it in with the purple color. So I'm using Winsor Violet. And you'll see here, I don't like the way that looks, so I mop it up with my paper towel, and then I take some clean water and kind of scrub where I want to erase. And it gets rid of most of the pigment, and I'm just redoing the end of that brim of the hat because I didn't like the way it looked. And now I'm just going back in with some darker color, and I'm just adding a little bit of shadow while it's still wet. So I'm taking that darker pigment and just tapping it into the corners and the brim, doing a couple lines, and we'll do more detail on it in a little bit. Just doing this while it's still wet. Here I add like a little kind of cutout, just like it's kind of jagged. It's a worn witch's hat. Then while I'm waiting for that layer to dry, I'm going to work on a witch's broom. So I'm just taking some burnt umber. Okay, and I'm just painting the stick, the handle, and I want to make it a little bit jagged. I kind of want to make it look like it's a stick. So I added the burnt umber, and then I added a darker brown underneath for a bit of shadow while it's still wet. And now I'm going to do the base of the broom, and I'm just doing these kind of like stick straw like strokes. So some coming out the top, and then this middle section, almost like a little bulb, and then some jagged kind of sticks coming out the bottom, or straw, I don't know. And then I go back in with a bit darker brown just to add a bit of shadow while it's still wet. All right, and you kind of want that separation from the top sticks and then the middle part and then the bottom. And then we're just going to let everything dry. Okay, so now that that's dry, we can go and do some wet on dry, and I'm just taking some darker brown and just outlining kind of the bottom half of that broom handle and then some of the sticks, and then just adding like little ties and a little bit of shadow to some of the sticks. Would it be straw or sticks? I don't know. But yeah, just a little bit of sharp detail. And then we're going back in the hat. You're going to see here I add a brim, or not a brim, like a little section around the middle. I realize I don't like that, so I just mop it up with my paper towel, and then I go back over the whole section with water just to kind of blend it out again, making it a little bit darker with some more purple, adding some more shadows in there, and it also kind of separates the top of the hat from the brim. And that's kind of how I fix my mistakes, just going over it with all of my purple, and then we'll go and add some line detail after. Once it's dry, just going to dry it. So I do use my heat tool a lot of the time for drying my work. If you don't have one, you can just let it dry naturally. And then here, so I'm working wet on dry, and I'm just doing some lines like the hat is kind of folded. You know what I mean? It has those creases in it. And that's about it. Okay, so next we're going to be working on a jack-o'-lantern. I've done pumpkins plenty of times on this channel. So we're going to start the way we usually do with our long oval shape with some orange, then doing some C curves around the left side and then the right side. Again, a medium wash of orange, and then we're just making sure it's all wet because we're going to be adding in some darker pigment on top of that and having it blend and bleed together, and leaving those little white spaces in between the sections just to make it look like there's separated sections. Went in with a bit of yellow, and now I'm just tapping in some darker orange. And the difference with this pumpkin is that we're just going to be adding a face on it after. So I'm just adding in that darker orange. I'm also going to grab a bit of brown just to add a bit more shadow to make it a little bit darker. You can mix your burnt umber with some orange if you like, and then just dragging it around those sections just to create a bit more separation. And then I just want to add in a bit more orange to deepen that color, just to make it a bit darker and vibrant. And then we are going to let the whole thing dry before we do the face and the stem. So now that it's dry, I just took some black and my smaller size 2 detailed brush, and I'm just doing a little face. You can obviously do whatever kind of cutout eyes you'd like, nose, mouth, whatever you want to add for your pumpkin, make it fun. And I'm just using black for this. And then I'm just going to take a little bit of burnt umber, and I'm just going to not completely outline, but just give a little bit more sharpness to those sections, just for a bit of detail. And then we're going to do the stem, just doing like a jagged kind of base and a stem with some dark brown. Then I'm going to take some green after this, and I'm just going to do some swirly little vines, that's what I meant, just for a pop of color, just for something different. Little kind of leaves, nothing too detailed. And that is our jack-o'-lantern. Just adding in a little bit more darkness to those eyes and the mouth. Okay, so let's move on to our next illustration, which is a ghost. And if you saw my video a couple weeks ago, my Monday morning watercolor tips on painting white objects, you would have already seen this. So I'm just using an extremely light wash of gray, so black, and I'm just filling it in. I know it looks super light, but it does dry a little bit darker. Light washes, and in that video, I made a mistake and people were at me in the comments. Watercolor overall dries lighter, but light washes, they may look really, really light when you're putting them down because of the glare of the light or whatever, but they tend to dry darker than you think they will. So people tend to use more color than they actually need. And what I was trying to say in that video is just go lighter than you think you need. You can always make it darker, but you can't necessarily make it lighter. So make the light wash as light as you can, because it will dry darker than you think, is what I meant. Some people got what I was trying to say. So here I'm just drying it. See? Like it's light, but you can definitely see it. So that's our little ghost shape, and you can just kind of make it any kind of shape, just like some curvy lines. And we're just going to do a cute little face, because why not? We're going to make it a cute ghost. Some kind of curved eyes and a mouth, maybe a little bit of a rosy cheek, because I like cute ghosts better than scary ghosts. And it's honestly as simple as that. And when I was doing the wash of the ghost, I added a little bit of tiny little bit of a darker pigment to some of those curves inside, just to make some shadows. All right, so now we are going to do a skull, which I've actually never done before. I'm just starting with this round shaped head at the top, and then I'm kind of cutting it off midway, which is where the nose is going to be. And then I'm doing this square at the bottom. So a round shape on the top, and it kind of comes to a square in the middle, and then you do an extra little square kind of at the bottom. And again, I use that really light wash of gray, and I'm just tapping in a little bit of the darker gray as well as a bit of brown, just because I feel like that's more of a skull kind of color, a light brownish gray color. And I'm just adding in some little bits of darker pigment just to give it a bit more shadow and an outline, a tad little one. Again, using my heat tool to dry it before we do the face. Making sure it's nice and dry. Okay, and then I'm going to take a light wash of, I think it's gray, and I'm doing these 2 little triangles for the nose, and then I'm going to do big circles for the eyes. It's kind of like a grayish brown, and it's a mid kind of wash. I don't want it too dark, because I'm going to go back in with some darker color here and just tap it to make it look like there's a bit of shadow in there, and just let it bleed into that wet surface. And then some teeth. I'm just going to outline the teeth, and I'm using my size 2 brush for this. And it's super simple like that, doing a couple like lines of where the bone structure kind of curves in and out. Yeah, it actually turned out well. I tried to do some like little divots at the top, used too much pigment, tried to wash it off and blend it out. A little bit better there. And that is our skull. Okay, next illustration, super, super simple. A tiny little spider doing a circle and then like a half circle on top, and then just 4 legs. And you want to make them really thin and long, and they all kind of bend halfway. And that's like the easiest thing you could do. But that's it. Just make those legs really, really thin. I find that makes it look a little bit better and not sticking straight out. They have that bend in the legs. All right, so our next illustration. we're going to do some cute little candy corn. It's a hit or miss with people. Some people like it, some people don't. Okay, so we're doing this kind of rounded square, well, kind of rectangular-ish bottom with the orange. And then while it's still wet, I just go in and add the next layer of yellow for the mid part, starting to make it more of a triangle shape, so a little bit thinner, not thinner, but like a bit more narrow towards the top. And then I'm going to take a really light wash of gray and do that little point at the top, and it's all kind of bleeding in together. Try not to use too much pigment so it doesn't like bleed too much. But yeah, I'm just gonna add a little bit more orange because I found it wasn't as orange for the bottom. And there you go, there's some candy corn. And you can also wait for it to completely dry and then just kind of separate the layers a little bit more if you like. And then our last and final illustration is a simple cat. And we're just doing the back of the cat. We're not going to do the face. I mean, you can definitely turn it around and have a little face. You can add some white for the face if you'd like. But you're just going to start with a circle for the head, triangles for the ears, and then this kind of like upside down light bulb shape for the body. We're just filling it in with our black. I will make it a bit darker. There we go. And I might add a little bit more to the shoulder area so it's not as like bulbous shaped. But then my idea for the tail, so I add complete clean water where I want to add that tail because I want kind of like a fuzzy tail. So I just add the black in that area, and it looks fuzzy because you're doing this wet on wet technique, so it kind of like bleeds out and looks a little fuzzy. So here's the shoulders. But yeah, you just add clean water, like very clean, and then just add that tail after, and it gives you like a fuzzy kind of look. And there are our simple Halloween illustrations. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and follow me on all my other platforms for tons more content. Have a wonderful day. Bye.